What if God really isn't far away, even though you may think he feels like it sometimes? And what if he's not asking you to try harder to find him? Because what if he's already here and we've just become so hurried and distracted and exhausted that we've stopped noticing just how near he already is? Today on Wildly Hopeful, I'm sitting down with writer and Inner Revival podcast host Monika Kirkland to talk about her new book, Ever With You, Becoming Fully Awake to the God Who Is Near. Monica's a wife, a mama of four, a writer, content creator, and she has spent years helping women cultivate intimacy with Jesus and experience transformation from the inside out. She and her high school sweetheart, Ryan, spent more than a decade in ministry in Southern California before moving their family just outside of Nashville. Her work moves through theology, biblical wisdom, devotionals, honest conversations about faith in real life, and because apparently one genre simply wasn't enough, romantic comedy too. And honestly, I already love that about her, but this conversation, it's for the women who love Jesus and still feel tired. Maybe prayer feels a little flat, and maybe your soul feels hungry, but you don't even know what you're hungry for. Maybe you've been running on caffeine and cortisol, moving from one responsibility to the next, and somewhere along the way, you've looked at your life or maybe even yourself and thought, okay, something has to change. Today, we're going to talk about burnout, anxiety, spiritual emptiness, prayer, hearing from God, sustainable rhythms, and what happens when faith quietly starts feeling like one more good Christian checklist. We've all been there, probably, right? And maybe even the invitation isn't to do more. Maybe it isn't to reach farther. Maybe it's to become awake again, present enough to notice, still enough to receive, and aware of the God who has been here all along. And I have been looking so forward to this conversation because today's guests come to me through one of my favorite kinds of introductions, a friend saying authentically, "You two need to know each other." And listen, I trust a good friend setup. Mary Morantz introduced me to Monica, and she didn't exactly undersell her, may have even felt a little intimidating. But for real, when Mary used this phrase, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And because I had not only to look it up, maybe that's why I kept thinking about it, but because I also had to use my pal Google to remind me how to pronounce it. She called Monica a sui generis. And for inquiring minds that need to know what that means, because I was an inquiring mind, it means one of its own kind. So basically, she was calling Monica a one of one. Let's just see who we are chatting with today, shall we? She just released her book Until the Wild on August 18th, Ever With You. Come pull up a chair with us and let's just talk about it.
Good morning. I am so excited to have you with me, Monica, and welcome to the Wildly Hopeful podcast. I've been looking so forward to this conversation for a couple of reasons, but one of them is because today's guest for our friends listening, my friend Monica, my new friend Monica, was introduced to me through one of my favorite kind of introductions. And it was through a mutual friend that was like, hey, you two have to meet. But that wasn't even all the things. Like Mary Morantz, first of all, our mutual friend that introduced Monica to me, literally said after you two need to know each other, was she is smart, she is hilarious, she is beautiful, she has depth to her, and I'm thinking, "Okay, like, go off, sis, like, these are all the things of a queen today." But then Mary used a phrase that I haven't been able to stop thinking about, and it could be because I had to, um, Google it because listen, your girl had to look up Google, and may have had to use my pal to even pronounce it, but she called you a sui generis. Now, listen, it's been a minute since your girls had Latin. And so, for inquiring minds like mine and me, I had to inquire. It means of its own kind. So basically, Mary was just saying that you're one of one friend, and I love that. So I thought, okay, well, she's set the bar extremely low for this conversation, like no pressure whatsoever. But it's like, really though, how fun is this? Because now it's like we're three friends, we've mic'd up, we've invited these other gals to chat, listen in, and it's just going to be fun. So let's do this. But before we introduce you as Monika, an author, I want to get to know like the forward facing, really who you are. Um, because now that Mary described you as one of one, like, has she ever described you? First of all, has she ever described you that to your face before? Like, has she ever been like, girl, you are a sui generous?
She has not, but oh my goodness, can we all just have friends like that? Like, what a gift to have women who will support you and champion you and open doors for you. So I was so humbled and so grateful. It was such a kind and gracious email and introduction.
Yes, I love that because I'm thinking like, I mean, if somebody's going to introduce me like that, like I'm going to have a sweatshirt made. Like I'm fixing to wear it proud across my shirt. You
I
know?
should. Totally.
Right? Yes, you should. Because then friend are going to be like, okay, what does that mean? And you can be like, girl, I'm a one of a kind. I'm one of one.
Oh.
So, but what's funnier to me is after Mary introduced us, and of course I'm interviewing you. So I have to be like, an internet sleuth and I'm doing all the deep dive, I'm doing all the digging. And there are so many overlaps to us that I was like, oh, okay. Like this completely makes perfect sense. So either Mary knew what she was doing, she was some kind of friend matchmaker. We're going to start our own show, like something's about to happen. So, okay.
I love it.
Back to forward facing. I want to know, Monika. So, you are raising four kids with your high school sweetheart, Ryan, outside of Nashville, after years of ministry in Southern California. What does life right now at the Kirkland household on an ordinary Tuesday morning look like?
Well, mostly wrangling feral children. So I have like, I feel like much of my life is, mom mode, like full on, today is a big day. Like my book is being released into the world, but my four kids, like they don't care about any of that. Like I'm mom. And so we're getting them, dressed and ready. My son's screaming this morning that he can't find a pair of shorts to wear to school. And I show him four pairs of shorts this morning. And he's like, no, I hate those ones. Those don't fit right. Those are too big. I don't. So, I'm finding shorts. And then my daughter, she was crying to me about something about this weekend. And so, yeah, my life is mostly like, total mom mode. My kids are, my youngest little guy is 6, and then we have 3 girls. So ranging from age 7 to 12. So we're
Yes.
just busy, like in the thick of the little parenting years.
I love it. And I love that you said wrangling feral children. I have 5 grandchildren, of course. So all of my kids are grown, but I have 5 grandkids. And so we have 2 girls and 3 boys. I would love to say the girls are as wild as the boys, but they're not. We have, and all 3 of them are just rowdy, like loving, precious little boys. 2 of them are a bit more feral than the others, and they make it just a little more fun, but altogether, there's 12 of us. So, like, when it's my husband and I, our kids, grandkids, son-in-laws, when we go somewhere to eat, like, there's always 12 of us, right? And I'm
Love it.
like, this is what it looks like to travel with a circus. Like, this is my circus. These are my monkeys. This is for real indeed, like, my gig right here.
Yes,
But so I
absolutely.
love it because our houses can be peaceful, they can be yelling, and there can be laundry everywhere. Who out of your kiddos would you say, Monika, is more like you? Who keeps you laughing? And who do you think might expose you on a podcast one day?
These are great questions. So, my 12-year-old Ebby, she is a lot like me. She's a deep feeler, a deep thinker. She loves to read. She is currently actually reading my book, Ever With You. She just says to me last night, she's like, Mom, you should have had me read this before you publish it because I found a few typos. And I was like, okay. Like she
I
is
love
just
it.
she's so sweet and she loves the Lord. And so she, I think, is a lot like me, as well as my youngest daughter, Indy. She's a lot like me too. But then my middle daughter, Cora, she's the one who will make you laugh. She's a lot like my husband. She's extroverted. She is like everybody's favorite friend in person. So she just has this magnetic personality, just like my husband does. And then my little guy, he keeps me on my toes. He's so funny because he's wild. He's in first grade and And he, at home, he just challenges and he pushes back and he's, a little bit defiant, a little bit rebellious. Like he just gives me a run for my money. But then yesterday, the teacher sends home a note and he gets the award for being respectful and being a good listener. And I look at him and I was like, wow, like this is amazing that you're so good and well behaved at school, but then you come home to me and he unleashes the fury.
He unleashes the beast, right? Like,
Yes.
I've been good all day long. Like, I can't do
Yes.
this anymore.
Yeah. So it's fine. I'm his safe, we're his safe people that he could be let that out with, but it is challenging.
I love it. Okay, wait, though. So you have a Cora. Is she a C or a K? Your
Cora with
Cora.
a C. C.
So my Cora, I have a Cora with a K. So
Oh,
that is super cool. So that's what I was going to say. We have to establish that immediately. Like we both have a Cora, but yours is with a C and mine is
yeah.
with a K. So now I
Oh,
guess I can add that to Mary's evidence file. Like she knew what she was doing.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my Cora, she is a mini me other than she probably, of course, she's her own gal, but she would be, if I had to describe, she'd be a better version of me. She's so
Oh.
much more. I mean, I would love to think that I'm loving and give and extend grace and compassion, but she's just one of those that's like
Mm.
really a girl's girl. She's so compassionate. She
Love that.
challenges me every single day in my
Mm.
beliefs. And she truly, now that I think about it, has like shown me how two people can be so alike but think so different and
Mm.
still love in the world. Like, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
cool if that could really happen everywhere?
Yes. That's
Okay.
beautiful.
And so you're outside of Nashville now, right?
Yes.
Which I was born and raised about 40 minutes east of Nashville. And so I
Oh.
had never moved out of the county that I lived in until my husband got this job 4 years ago and we moved to Charleston. So I am missing Tennessee right now. It's like
Oh.
114 degrees here.
Oh, I love
Um,
Charleston. I'll trade spots with you. I love
Listen,
Charleston.
listen, I should have put you on a plane and had you here. You could have came in.
Yes.
Yes, and we could have done this here today. But I tell you, oh Lord, it is hot. It's humid. I know it's humid there.
Oh,
My family, I have a lot of family that's volunteering this week at the Wilson County Fair, and they're like, it is absolutely miserable here. And I was like, yeah, it was 90 degrees this morning here at 7 o'clock.
oh,
And it's just wet. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like everything is just wet. But
Yes.
anyway, okay. So we've had all kinds of little chit chat. But I want to know, so you guys spent more than a decade in Southern California and then you moved to Nashville with your sweet. How long have you and Ryan been sweethearts? Because that's at high school when I read that.
Yeah, yeah. So we met in youth group in high school. So we went to different schools, but we met at our church's youth group, and yeah, we've been together ever since. So we officially started dating when I was 16, got married young, and then moved from Orlando, where we met and married, to Southern California, and spent over 10 years there.
Do you miss anything like food, weather? Was there more traffic, less traffic?
The traffic here has gotten really bad. There used to be, more traffic when we lived in LA for a few years, but then
Yeah.
settled kind of in Orange County and San Juan Capistrano. So there was a little less traffic there. But, I did love being near the coast. At one point, we lived only like 5 miles from the beach, and I would go do my walks at the beach. Or it was like if I had a hard day, I could just drive to the beach and just have this perspective. And it was just so beautiful being near the water. So I do really miss being near a body of water, so I try to
Yeah.
escape to the beach whenever we can, as much as we can
Yeah.
afford to. Go down to
Yeah.
30A and get to the beach, but
It's not as humid in California though, is it, as it is in Tennessee? Is it a little
ugh,
more dry or no, is it more humid?
it's definitely more humid here in Tennessee. It's a lot of, it's warm there, but it's maybe warm, like, 1 or 2 months out of the year. I mean, it really was most of the year would be pleasant weather, and so we got to be outside a lot, which I really loved.
So, this is my last important bit of journalism before we move into like our real nitty gritty of where we're going. But this is important coffee journalism. And I'm going to tell you why,
I love it.
because we are coffee snobs here at this household. And so, since we're arriving something that's so deeply theological, like I am going to have to know because you have publicly built coffee into your personal biography, like a drinker of all the coffee. So, as someone who takes coffee like silly serious around here, I need to know what is your go-to coffee order?
Okay, this is great, but it's gonna be less exciting than you're imagining. So I'm a coffee snob, but I'm also like, I guess, a little pretentious because I'm the person who's like, I'm a purist. I just give me a classic cappuccino. That's what I
Yes.
want. I don't want all the sugar. I want to taste the bitterness of the coffee. Like I want just a simple cappuccino. So that's my like
Yeah.
go-to order, and I absolutely love them. I have one almost every afternoon.
That is so funny because I was gonna say your answer is completely routing on this, and, my husband is the same exact way, like, he has to taste the like, he wants to taste what we're drinking, and I'm like,
Yes.
"I don't wanna taste it at all, I don't want anything, I just want a little coffee splashed in my creamer." Like, I
Right,
don't do
right.
sugar or anything, but I just have to have a little bit, of, coffee in there. So you drink the same one every day, and so do I, so that's good,
Yeah.
and okay, so now we're starting to move a little and but it's always fun. I always love when I bring a new friend on for our guests and listeners. It's one thing for us to know that you have a book out today, and that is like the most amazing part. And congratulations. I am so excited. I wish I could just squeeze you right now because I'm truly so
Oh,
excited for you and the message that the Lord has put on your heart to share with the world. But I like our listeners to know who it is that they're sitting here chit-chatting with, like
yeah.
if they're gonna be in the room with us and like really want to know what we're talking about, they
Yep.
also want to know like a deep dive into who you are. And so I always just like to have a little fun
Oh, yes.
before we
I
kind
love
of
it.
just go into our really big questions. And you write rom-coms, right? Too, on
I
top of
do.
okay, now this is a big because listen, this is what I am super excited for because when I discovered you write romantic comedy, I'm like, we are not like skating past this. What made you decide that life needed like this little addition from 4 children, ministry, the seriousness of, studying and living, life on mission for the kingdom, like podcasting and then nonfiction? What made you go, okay, honey, I need a little bit of rom-com in my life? Because
Yeah.
I'm here for this. Like, I need to know.
Yes. Oh, it's so funny because I feel like people forget that, at my heart, I'm a creative and I'm a writer and I'm, multi-passionate, multifaceted creative. And so I feel like sometimes it's like, oh, how does this fit together? But I've always been an avid reader. I love reading. I read all sorts of books, fiction, nonfiction. And for me, I often read nonfiction during the day. It kind of my, brain engages with it and it gives me lots of thoughts. But at night, I love to read fiction because it kind of quiets my brain and it's easier for me to like just relax with and unwind reading fiction. And so I've
Yeah.
always read a lot of fiction books. And so I went through a season when my family, we had first moved to Tennessee, and I had kind of was in the early stages of writing what now has become Ever With You, but I kind of faced a lot of rejection early in my writing career. Rejection from agents, rejection from publishing. I had submitted to writing competitions. It was just like a lot of rejection. And I had one point had a publisher who was interested in my book and they ultimately, passed on it because they didn't feel I had the platform size to support the book. And so I found myself like kind of in this new city, didn't have a lot of friends, I'm in mom mode. And I just felt really burned out on writing nonfiction and feeling like I can never grow a platform. I can never do this. Like, this is so discouraging. But also, I'm a writer and writers got to write. And so I end up just writing this fiction novel kind of for fun. I was like, I got the idea one day. I remember like it was yesterday. I was standing at the kitchen sink and I just had these kind of words. Like, some people start writing fiction with they get setting or they get character, but me, I get like dialogue. Like, I'll just start hearing like a character is talking. And so I sit down, I start writing, and I end up writing over the course of the next 4 weeks, like 30,000 words of this little fiction novel. But I didn't know what I was doing. And I wrote myself into a hole and like a big plot hole, and it wasn't working. And so 30,000 words in, I completely abandoned it. And I kind of got out of the depression, the funk that I was in. And I was like, oh, this is just a distraction from like more important ministry work. And so I kind of shelved that project for a long time, went back to working on my proposal, back to writing my nonfiction, feeling like this was just the calling and the ministry that God had for me. And then fast forward, like literally almost 2 years went by, and I had actually got it signed with an agent and started pitching again my book, which is now Ever With You. And and I remember one day I was laying down, I was taking a rest, and I come up from, you're like that half asleep days. And all of a sudden, like the solution to my rom-com, like the plot hole, like just dropped in my spirit. Like, it almost felt supernatural. Like, it was like, oh, I know exactly what to do to fix this. So I had, like I said, I had shelved it. I thought it was like not what I was going to do. And I go back to it and then spent a month actually while I was waiting to hear back from publishers for my nonfiction, finishing my rom-com. And it was this beautiful thing because I actually like really felt the presence of God with me as I was writing it. And I realized, oh, it's exactly like what my book talks about. Like God is with us in all of it, like in your working, in your parenting, in your writing rom-coms and writing nonfiction. Like he's not just in
Yeah.
the quote unquote spiritual things. He's in even the fun things like writing
Yeah.
rom-coms. And so I
Yeah.
finished that and I'm proud to say that I did recently sign a 2-book deal with the publisher to bring those rom-coms into the world.
I am ecstatic. And okay, so I have 2 places I wanna go. Neither one of these places are in my lineup right now, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
But okay, the first thing is I am so thankful that you shared a little bit of vulnerability as well and what it looked like during the process of the waiting season, because I think sometimes we can listen to other people talk, or we can look at social media, or we can just see things going on in our friends' lives, and even though we don't mean to, I think it's so easy sometimes to get caught up in comparison. And it
Mhm,
might not be for our friends listening that are in the process of writing a book, but maybe, there's something else. Maybe they're longing to, not be in a singleness era, or,
yeah,
to start a family, or, a new job. And, they walk through rejection. Sometimes we walk through rejection. So I'm so
mhm,
grateful, honestly, that you shared that too, because that is just the heart of being human. That's the heart of
right.
humanity. And, as when all of the good things in life are happening, we have joy in our life, and we still have moments in our life where we hurt, and there's pain, and there's
Mhm,
sorrow, and there's grief. And sometimes I think it's easy for us to forget that we live in a both and. It doesn't
mhm,
have to be, like you said, it's not just fiction or nonfiction. It's not just this is deeply spiritual or this is rom com. Like God is with us in all of it, and He's with us in our waiting. And this
mhm,
is something I've literally never shared online. I've never shared this on a podcast. Only a couple people in my family even know I have been like I was getting ready for a podcast interview. I'll never forget. I was getting ready to interview Lisa Whittle. I was getting ready, put my makeup on, and my email kind of dinged. And I was putting on makeup and I looked down. But what struck me is I have like a little different, sounds for each thing in my life, because if not, they might get shelved and somebody like me might forget in a type C status. But I knew that it was like my creative, it was like my business type email ding. And so I looked down and it was a literary agent. And I won't go into like the big highs and lows or the whole story, but she asked me, had I ever considered writing a book? Well, of course, absolutely. Like, that's what the Lord has been, this message, and I just feel it. And so, anyway, we were supposed to start pitching that to publishers this past March. And I found out in February that because my platform had not grown
mm,
enough, that they weren't going to carry it. And I ended up even losing my literary agent, like, it just wasn't, at the time,
yeah,
and so I have never shared that, and I didn't really intend
mhm,
to, but just the fact that you said that, I related to that so deeply, because then there came this moment of, God, well, I knew that's what you had, you know, put in my spirit. Like, this is what I'm
mhm,
supposed to be doing. And then when you feel that rejection, no matter what that is, when you feel like you've, been overlooked or you have been unseen, it's hard to come back from. And so I'm grateful that you shared, like I said, both,
yeah,
sides of that for us today. Um,
mhm,
because the only thing we can keep doing is waiting in the
yep,
waiting, right? And
yep,
continuing to be wildly hopeful in the
mhm,
season that we are just putting one foot in front of the other, even
yes,
on days when we feel like all we have, all I've got to offer today is just a little
mhm,
bit of breath, Lord. Like, I don't
yeah,
have anything else. And so, but
aw,
that was the little deep thing I wanted to share. Now, the fun thing
yeah,
I was going to ask you is, so this whole rom com thing, like, if I'm your friend, which I am now, but like if I'm your like gal pal and we're together all the time, I'm thinking, okay, am I going to see myself like, am I a character in this book? Like, is Ryan in the book? Are your kids? Or is it just completely like separated from your life? Nobody in your life is a character in that book.
it's a little bit of again like that both and where the characters are, I feel like I'm able to write about love because of the happiness I've had in my marriage and in my relationship with my husband. So in a way, the character, the male main character, he's very charming, very charismatic, very funny. Like everybody likes him, never met a stranger. And so that is totally my husband. So he's kind of like modeled off of him, but obviously it's younger single couple, like single people,
Right.
so not wholly him, but definitely inspired by him a little bit. So yeah, I would
I
say
love that.
loosely based.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
are you a Hallmark ending kind of woman? Like, does this have to be like a really good, like, is it going to be like really happy and sappy? Are we going to emotionally suffer a little bit? Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? Is it more intimidating? Are we writing like a kissing scene? Like, I am all invested
I got
in this.
yes. You're like
I
my new
love
favorite
it.
person. I love it.
I
You're
love
so
it.
fun. So, there is a kiss scene, of course. It's
Woo.
like it's a rom-com, so there's a kiss scene,
Yeah.
but it's very wholesome, it's very sweet. So, I started writing rom-coms because I loved reading romantic comedies because I used to, when I first got really into reading a fiction, would read, like, thrillers and suspense and things like that, but I realized, like, since I read fiction at night, I don't wanna fill my mind with, like, dark, scary, like, death and murder, like, right before
Yeah.
bed, right? So
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
started reading contemporary romance, I started reading romantic comedies, and what I found in the mainstream, like, secular rom-coms that were out there was just, a lot of crude jokes, a lot of language, a lot of explicit, love scenes. And so I was like, I want to write a book that has all the parts of the rom-coms that I love, like the witty banter and the chemistry and the tension and the love story, but without all that other stuff. And so that is
Yeah.
kind of what this book became. So of course, like I hope people when they read the last little bit of it that they smile and they feel uplifted and they laugh. Like so it's just humor and heart and I hope people just it brings them joy. That's my
I
hope. It was
love
just
this. Yeah, because I read this, of course, on your website too, but, and you're an avid writer and reader, and so one of the, I think, characteristics that would define a person that loves to read and to write is storytelling. We love to tell stories, right? Like, and so, I thought about that a second ago, and I kinda made a note about this because there's something about that that I love so much because I think sometimes we separate or we try to separate story from theology, right? Like
mm,
just completely separate them in our minds as though one is serious and the other one's just for entertainment. But Jesus wasn't like that either. You know what I mean? Like, and I do believe that he wasn't afraid of a story. Obviously, we have plenty to read, in scripture. And I love that because you can turn these type of rom-coms into something more wholesome. So that if, not not everyone, I would say, wants to read, like, all complete, secular like, all the things that you mentioned, you know what I
mhm,
mean? That the things that you just don't wanna read, and so I love that you said that it's more wholesome because it just combines all the parts of who you are as a
mhm.
good storyteller, and I love that,
Oh,
and,
thank
um
you.
so anyway, and I love all this. I love that so far as we're sitting here, if we had 10 hours to talk, all of the different directions that my brain's gone in. But we're getting into Ever With You now because that is like I wish I could do the drum roll. Sometimes I try. And I think about Ellen on the Griswolds when he's like drum roll when he's lighting the Christmas lights. And I've tried to do it on here a couple times and my tongue gets all done up so I can't. But this is the big, big moment I'm so excited for today. Ever With You has been released out into the wild. We can go to places and pick up this book today. And I absolutely love, like, knowing before we ever even got into Ever With You that we've learned a little bit about your heart and kind of where you've come from and writing it. Because this isn't a book written from some like quiet monastery, like by someone with unlimited interrupted hours. You're alive. You're a
Mhm.
mother. You are raising 4 kids. You've spent a decade in ministry. We've talked about it. You podcast. You do all the things. So you know what it's like to walk through hard seasons. We've talked a little bit about some hard seasons, and you know what it's like to love Jesus deeply and still live inside the noise of everyday life and our responsibility and exhaustion of a very real life, even when it's beautiful. Um, and somewhere inside of that, this book was born. So take me back. I want to go back before there was a book called Ever With You. What was happening in Monica? What was stirring in you for this message to start being written to be released into the world?
Mm. So it was really born out of a season of my life where I found myself, exhausted, distracted, like running on caffeine and cortisol, trying to do all the things and doing none of them very well. And I found myself in the spring of 2020. We were living in Southern California. We had young children, and I found myself kinda hitting this wall. There was one day where I had, gotten off a Zoom call. Everything that was in person got moved to, during lockdowns, got moved to being online, and so I was working at the church, and we had to, homeschool at the time. We had toddlers, and so I just found myself really hitting this wall. One day I got off the Zoom call and I would realize, like, "Oh, I haven't had a chance to eat anything today," and so I go into the kitchen and standing at the kitchen counter trying to make myself some food, and I remember I had, like, my two-year-old was at my leg, crying and, "Hold me, hold me." I had my four-year-old asking me a question, like, my husband's in the other room, like, probably playing something on the piano, like, noise here, and I just was, like, overstimulated, and I had this rush of heat come over me, and I had to grip the counter, and I realized, like, I'm gonna either throw up or pass out.
Yeah.
And I end up running into the living room, laying on the couch so that I wouldn't fall over, calling for my husband, and, ended up having a horrible bout of anxiety-induced vertigo that ended up lasting for several weeks, and I remember just after going to the doctor, realizing like, wow, I really need to reorient and reprioritize some things in a major way, or I'm not going to survive the season. And I think what's
Yeah.
hard is a lot of the things were good things. It was just a lot of things. And I think what I realize is so often like we think that the rest that we're so desperate for is found in a vacation. Like, oh, I just got to book another trip, or oh, I just need a Netflix binge, or I need a spa day, or I need a glass of wine, or a shopping spree, or all these things that we kind of reach for to give us rest, but they really only provide temporary relief. They don't provide true restoration that our souls are craving. And so, what I found
Yeah.
in that season was that the rest that I was so desperate for was actually found in intimacy with God because I couldn't, I had a mortgage. I couldn't quit my job. Like, I couldn't quit being a mom. I couldn't run away
Yeah.
from it. Like, I had to learn how to encounter God through it so that He could strengthen and sustain me in that season. And so, this book, which it releases today, and what better way to celebrate than talking to you about it? So, this
I
is so fun.
know.
And so this book is really just all the lessons, like the hard won lessons of God's grace in that season and the intimacy that was cultivated throughout it.
When you started writing, Ever With You, were you at a point where you had already started, like, was healing fresh within you for this, "I need, a moment to notice. I need to be present. I need to," um, and did anybody I always wonder this. I know how it was in my or how it has been. I mean, there have been just multiple seasons where I have been living so depleted and just worn my "I'm fine" necklace, like,
Mhm.
around my neck like a badge of honor. I say it all the time, I've worn beads my whole life that say I'm fine, and I've got cuter necklaces than those. Like, why did I think that's the one I need to wear? I don't know. But did anyone notice how depleted you were, or were you still just trying to hold it all together and make it because, as a wife, as a mom, as the you have a job, you're doing all the things. Sometimes I think that we just it's not that we don't have people in our life. You sounds like you have an amazing
Mhm.
support system.
Yeah.
Many of us do. I know that some of us may not, but it sounds like you did. And so it's not like you can't just say what's going on, but we try to carry it all. Were
Mhm.
you in a season where you were trying to carry that by yourself? Did anybody really know how depleted you were at that time?
I think in that season it was hard because there was so much uncertainty with the pandemic, and so I think a lot of moms who were home and their normal sense of normalcy was upended. A lot of people were just struggling in that time. So I think unfortunately, because there were not in-person gatherings as much, people probably didn't realize how much I was struggling, and I'm
Yeah.
also the kind of person where if I'm at church or I'm, around a group of friends, I'm still gonna, I'm gonna use that concealer, and I'm gonna hide the bags under my eyes, and I'm gonna do my hair and makeup, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
smile, and I'm funny, and I'm humorous, and so I can, laugh it off, and I can bring
Yep.
levity to it, but yeah, but it's those quiet moments when no one's watching where you're like, you wake up and you see your reflection and you're like, "Wow, who is this person staring back at me?" Like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you that specifically because I just felt in my heart that we may have some friends listening right now that when you started talking about that in the season that you were in, was like, wow, that's me. I can see
Mhm.
myself in her story. I have been in, that moment, or maybe I'm there right now where I'm just. exhausted. Like, I
Mhm.
can't do this like this anymore. Something has to give.
Mm.
And so I wondered if for our friends, like I said, and you made the point for me before I even had to even kind of follow into that, is that's what we do. Like you said,
Mhm.
if we're around our friends, if we're at church, we put the concealer on, we laugh, we can laugh it off. And then it's those quiet moments when we go and sit before the Lord and we sit at his feet and
Mhm.
we're like, okay, I know that I can bring the good to you, but
Yep.
I can also bring the hard. I can
Mhm.
also bring that I just don't understand what this is right now, and I
Mhm.
need you and I need your help. And I think that there's times that we get so used to trying to carry everything by ourselves that we miss noticing his
Mhm.
presence in the
Yeah.
times when we really need him, because we could be, so broken. And I don't think in those moments when we feel unseen and forgotten that we're holding on to the scripture, or that it even comes to mind all the time that he is near to the brokenhearted. He's
Mm.
always near, and
Yeah.
noticing him and just being aware and attentive that he's
Mhm.
there with us in those times. And I was going to ask you, do you think that we could actually, like, are there ways, or did you try to train yourself? Let me ask it that way, to become more attentive to him in that season, and like what you notice now and how you
Mm.
notice, like, even the small things, and just being a witness or just witnessing things that you didn't before, now that you've written Ever with You. So you've lived the
Mm.
experience and you've written about it. How has that changed you at right now,
Yeah.
sitting here with it being released into the wild today?
Yeah. I mean, I think it really during that season, the Lord just brought me on this journey of, again, realizing that He was with me in all of it. And I think it's really easy for us as women, and especially as Christians, to kind of compartmentalize our faith. Like, you feel like God's presence is with you when you're at Bible study or when you're at a worship night or on Sunday mornings, but then you leave the building or you close the Bible in that morning and you feel like you're doing the rest of it on your own. And so I think what was really easy that I know a lot of women struggle with is just kind of operating out of the sense of self-reliance instead of Holy Spirit dependence. And so I think what the Lord showed me is, it makes me think of that hymn. It's like, every hour I need you. Like, I realized, like, I
Yeah,
had this need. And so I really had to live with an awareness of my need for God's grace and for his strength. And I think that's hard in our culture. Like, we want to be strong, we want to grin and bear it, we want to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. Like, we want to, you know, just keep going, keep moving forward, and just kind of willpower our way through. And when you get to this
yeah,
point where you're at the end of your rope and you realize, I cannot willpower my way out of this, like, I need something, like, I need a supernatural grace. And so it's a beautiful thing when you come to the end of yourself, because I do feel like that is where God can do his best work. And so that was really what happened in that season.
yeah. I literally, as you were just talking, was thinking about how, and it could have been a particular moment, it could have been multiple moments where, like you said, you love God, you were serving Him, you were doing all the things, and spiritually we can still be exhausted because we're trying to be self reliant instead of trying to depend on Him. And, it makes me think, like, about when we think about being exhausted sometimes, like you said, it's like, I just need another shopping trip. I need a binge, some Netflix. I just need to kind of clear my mind, just listen to nothing, or I need to
Mhm.
go on a vacation. And it's not always just a type of rest that we need, that a nap can fix, or
Mhm.
that a dopamine hit can help, or just
Mhm.
sitting by the ocean, which, I mean, sitting by the waves never hurts anybody. But it's emotional,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
spiritual, and it's irritability, it's numbness, it's difficulty
Mhm.
thinking, it's difficulty praying, it's going through the motions and living a life where we're like, literally, I'm here, but I don't even know, like, I'm not present in this, and
Mm.
just
Yeah.
existing, and instead of thriving. And I've
Mhm.
said that in my own life before, like, God, I just feel like I'm just trying to survive the day. And
Mhm.
I want to get back to the joy of remembering I get to
Yeah.
do this day. Like, this isn't just a
Mhm.
chore, to wake up and get to do the things I get to do. And that wasn't an easy thing. And it wasn't easy, to get back to. And I think sometimes we are probably the last people even though you would think this makes absolutely no sense, I think we're the last people to even realize how exhausted we are because we
Mhm.
are the ones just continuing to go until
Yeah.
one day, like a sippy cup spills and it's on the floor and it's just a little tiny mess, but it's like we blow up because
Right.
everything that we have been holding on to and suppressing has now
Mhm.
just like surmounted into this just big, huge, huge thing. And as we're talking about that, it makes me think about the message behind your book and what makes the women you're writing to so compelling to me because you don't seem to be writing ever with you to a woman who doesn't love God. Obviously, we know that that's your heart. That's a deep place where you are. And you're writing to the woman who does. She loves him. She knows him. She believes him. She may be faithfully serving him. She
Mhm.
may be hungry for more of him, but she's exhausted and somehow, in the middle of doing all the things she thought she was supposed to do, she can feel disconnected from him, the one that she loves so much. And the last thing she needs is somebody telling her to try harder, to do
Mhm.
harder, do more, to pray more,
Yeah.
to be more. And was the woman, she just needs like an invitation back to him,
Mhm.
back to his
Yeah.
arms, back to his presence, back to noticing him. Was the woman you were picturing when you wrote this, where was she? What did your
Mhm.
who, your why, like, what did she who is she, and who are we praying today that she is definitely one of the first women that gets her hands and heart on this book?
Mm. Yeah, I think like you said, it's for the woman who loves God, but who is just forgotten how to enjoy intimacy with him.
Yeah,
There was something my friend shared with me from the Westminster Shorter Catechism that says that man's chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. And I think there's a lot of Christian women who get caught up in that first part. They're glorifying God, they're serving him, they're doing all the things. They want that gold star, that well done, good and faithful servant. They're really serving the Lord. They have missed that whole second part, which is that we get
yeah,
to enjoy God forever. And I think there is so much joy and rest and peace and satisfaction and contentment that comes when we get to spend time enjoying God's presence. And so that is my heart for people is I think it has transformed my life to encounter the presence of God. And so I want to help women, that person who's like, well, I love God, I believe in God, but maybe they haven't felt his presence. Maybe they haven't felt his nearness. Maybe they felt abandoned or they're in a wilderness season. I want to really encourage and speak to that woman.
yeah. I love that you said that because that was immediately what was coming to my mind is that we can be devoted to him, devoted for doing for him, and forget who we're doing it with. So we're
Mhm.
not just always doing things for God, we're doing things with him,
Mhm.
and I think that I think we can spend so much times of our lives doing, being, that we just lose the intimacy of just simply knowing him
Mhm.
and being in his presence and feeling his presence. And so I also love that you said the gold star, that we want to get the gold star. I kind of want to have a gold star conversation moment because
Yeah.
the culture is constantly, and like I think I've probably said this 3 times, and it's because it truly is on my heart and mind right now for women in this culture and in the time that we live. It is just how much can we produce? How much
Mhm.
more can we be productive? And on the days when our bodies are just telling us that we need a moment, we need to just rest, you feel guilty for taking
Mhm.
time and even answering the cues that are necessary, just for
Yeah.
daily living. And that whole do more, be more, have more, and if we're not careful, we baptize that same message and bring that right into our faith, I think. And so now it's like we have to pray more, we have to read more, we have to serve more, we have to become more spiritual, all the mores, right? Like all the
Mhm.
mores. And you use this idea of finally deciding to stop trying to earn a gold star from God. And I absolutely adore that language because I think some women probably listening may have even just felt like personally attacked when I said that we feel like and
Yeah.
and maybe I've been one of those women. And
Yeah.
so I kind of know like, wait a minute, like you see me. What did Gold Star Christianity look like for you? And where did that come from? Because I think sometimes what looks like devotion can turn into depletion. And that's kind of what we're
Mm.
talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
underneath that, did you ever have to untangle like, I want to be faithful from I need to prove that I'm faithful?
That's good. Yeah, I think for me in that season, it was like this idea of, I want to live worthy of the calling that I've received. And so I want to honor God and I want to serve him. And the gospel has transformed my life. So of course I want to share it with other people. Of course I want to serve in the church and I want to serve in women's and I want to, I was helping lead a MOPS group at one point and I'm, trying to write and I'm trying to speak and I'm trying to just be faithful with the calling that I have received. And so I think, it's not a bad thing. It's not that the posture of my heart, I think, was in a place of wanting to serve God. But I think what I needed to learn was, again, how to do it not for God, but with God in partnership with him. And so that's the distinction
Yeah.
I want this book to help people to walk in. It's really walking in step by the Holy Spirit. And I think there's something about, striving ahead to the next thing instead of saying, God, what are you doing today? And how can I partner with you in it? Well, help me to be faithful, not with, we overthink it and we're, sometimes get too in our heads about things, but what are the simple things that you're calling me to do today? How can I be obedient in them? And how can I do them by your strength? Like your power is made perfect in my weakness. But sometimes I think that sounds good in scripture, but we don't want to be honest about our weaknesses. We don't
Yeah.
really want that. We want to actually play to our strengths. And so it's really humbling when you're like, oh, I am weak and I need you.
Yeah, I love that you said that because that's where I was kinda gonna turn next was the we before anything have
Mhm.
always been and always will be a daughter,
Mhm.
and sometimes I think it can be convoluted in our minds that we have to perform or produce to
Mhm.
be daughter, and actually in all actuality, none of that really matters. What we
Mhm.
do for him does not determine that we're his
Yeah.
or how loved we are. We have always been his. And in that whole mentality, that's where we are striving, right? Like we're
Mhm.
striving to earn. And maybe it's because even in our like natural lives, or, it could be because we've had issues with our own father or in
Yeah.
relationships or just in things in the world in general that we have had to earn or feel like we've had to claw. I've heard, I have
Yeah.
to claw my way through that, or I've been a fighter my whole life. And this is just one of those areas where I think it's natural, but it's not kingdom, and sometimes in the upside down kingdom that we live in, it's hard for us to go from striving to receiving. That
Mhm.
we can give, and we are, to give and to love,
Yeah.
but we also are to receive, and it's free, and I think that, is one of the things that is hard for us as women. And I'm sure that it could be for men, but especially as women when we identify as the nurturer and the fixer, and so we want to constantly feel like we have to be earning and we
Yeah.
and that's just so far from the truth. And
Mhm.
so I love that you talk about that and just being present with the Lord and letting him move through us. And talking about going from striving to receiving, has there been a time with you or that you think could even be practical in ever with you for a woman that's like, "Wait a minute, I'm just kinda discovering some of this language as we're talking about it," and maybe underneath what she has going on is thinking, "I need to lay some things down, right
Mhm.
now." Um, what do you think as far as ever with you, will she see that message in there that she can receive from God and not just strive and give and what that kinda looks like?
Yeah. At first, I would say I think there's a lot of people who are carrying a lot of different things. We all have unique challenges, right? We all have unique seasons, circumstances, but I think we all are called to discern what we're meant to carry in each season. And there's this
Yeah,
quote by Nora Roberts, and she says, like, that the key to juggling different things is to know which ones are glass and which ones are plastic. And so I do talk about this idea in my book, and I feel like what the Lord invites us to is to prayerfully discern, God, what are the things in my life that are those glass balls that I need to nurture and protect and treat with care? And what are those things that are plastic balls where if they drop for a season, they won't break. Those are things that I
yeah,
can let go of in a season. And so I would say to the person who's like, my plate is so full. I don't know. I can't get rid of things. I don't know what to take off my plate. I'm juggling so many things. I would just say take some time, maybe pray about it, but maybe unpack it with a trusted friend or counselor or pastor and just look at your life and say, what are those things that, maybe something's a plastic ball, but you've been treating it like a glass ball. And it's
yeah,
time to let that go. And like for me in that season, because I felt this calling to write, I was trying so hard to, you know, work on my platform and grow my audience so that I could, write books and do this thing that I felt called to do, that I was called to do, but I felt like I had maybe made that into a glass ball, but that was plastic. And so if anything's going to drop, social media can drop, like things like that, that I had made into this precious thing that was really easy to discern. Oh, that's plastic. I can drop that for a season. And so
Yeah.
that's my encouragement, is to just really prayerfully discern that.
Yeah, that is so good. Thank you for sharing that. Also, there's a phrase connected to your book that I have been thinking so much about because it truly is intertwined in my heart right now. As I'm actually writing a piece right now on noticing and the quiet witness, and so it really hits home is the be here now, and be
Mhm.
here now just sounds so simple and it sounds so simplistic, but I wonder if that's not actually, like, one of the hardest things for us to
Mhm.
do is just to be here now and be in this moment, um, because we're replaying yesterday, right? We're planning for tomorrow. We're thinking about what we still have to do today, especially like school's just started back. If you're a mama of a kindergartner all the way to a child graduating from college with their PhD, I don't care. Like there's all these things, that's going through our minds and these websites and passwords. Lord Jesus, all the passwords. But
Yes.
like we're scrolling
I
somewhere, like
know.
all the things,
Mhm.
trying to become somebody else and um allowing God to actually meet you, and be with you in all of that and just being present in the now and knowing that God is near. And
Mhm.
so, what does be here, be now, and like the Lord being near, like what does that actually look like in Ever with you?
Yeah. So I tell this story in the introduction to my book where, shortly after that season where I had the, diagnosed with the vertigo and realizing I had to like make some major, changes and shift my life or I wouldn't survive the season. I had kind of sat down with my husband and told him I need some time to rest, some time to really get away with the Lord. And so I went down, this is when we were still in California. I lived a few miles from the beach, and I went down to my favorite spot at the beach and just sat there with the Lord, and I felt like I just felt his presence in a way that I had just he'd just been drowned out by the noise in my life, and so I had this sweet time with the Lord, and then after about an hour, I get back in my car and I'm driving on on the PCH, driving home, and I look up and I see this bumper sticker just kind of gleaming off the back of this van, like it was just for me. And it said, "Be here now." And I look at it and I just immediately started crying. Like it was one of those moments where you just felt like the Lord, this is this common hippie saying, right? Like it's something that you would see probably a sticker, but the Lord used it that day to just speak to my heart to be here now. And I realized it. I had been so like my mind was always anywhere but right here. Like my mind is out there. It's thinking about what I need to do. It's thinking about the kids, or I'm caught in the cycle of looking back with regret, or I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. Why did I do that? I wish I would have done that differently. Or I'm looking forward with fear, kind of catastrophizing. Did I say that right? I have like worst case scenario in my head, like
Yeah,
and looking forward with fear. And so it's this invitation with the Lord, like, just be right here, right now with me in this present moment. And that is
yeah,
where there is peace and there is freedom. And Jesus tells us, don't worry about tomorrow. It has enough trouble of its own. Like, just be here. Today has enough trouble of its own. So be right here with him. And so it was just this beautiful encouragement to me. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in that cycle, but this book is really an invitation to slow down, take a breath, and kind of be brought back to the present moment.
and that, like I said, sounds so easy. It sounds so simplistic, but it is a practice. It is a practice to slow down and take a breath and to get back to this moment. Sometimes when I'm walking, I'll do the whole, okay, 5 things I can see, like 4 things I can hear,
Mhm,
because I just want to be present and in the moment and back to where I am. And we, before we started talking about it, I said that, the God who is near, and the subtitle of your book, Becoming Fully Awake to the God who is near. And so I kept coming back to that as well as um, the word awake
mhm,
and not finding God, like not convincing God to come closer, but becoming awake to the God who is already near. He is
yeah,
already here. He is already present. And the whole, I want to kind of go to like what being fully awake looks like because I think it is so easy to be spiritually sleepy
mhm,
sometimes. We can love Jesus and we can love good theology and go to church and we still read scripture and live much of our actual unalives unaware of him because we have been kind of spiritually sleepy. We just get lulled into the everyday grind, and our minds consuming like all of the
Yeah.
things that we take in
Mhm.
every day. And so, what does that look like in being fully awake? Like, what does that mean to you in contrast to being fully awake and being spiritually sleepy?
Yeah, I think of it like when you're in the car and you're driving somewhere and you're kind of like on autopilot and you get to your destination, you don't even remember the drive because you just kind of gone on autopilot. And so I think that's what it looks like to be kind of sleepy. And there's this line in, the book Every Moment Holy. It's a line from a prayer, and it says, "Let me enter this new day aware of my need and awake to your grace." And so that is really, my prayer for people too, is I think it starts with an awareness of your need for God. It's really hard to live awake to his presence if you're not aware of your need for him in your life, his presence to strengthen you, to sustain you, to carry you through. The Holy Spirit is our helper, our comforter, our advocate. Like, we need more of his presence in our lives. And so I think it starts with an awareness of your need for him.
Yeah.
And then that second part is awake to your grace. This is once you acknowledge your need, then you can live awake to his grace that is within you. And so with you and within you. And so I think that's where it begins. Um, and I think, like you said, that sometimes you're on a walk and you kind of it's about intentionality. Sometimes it's intentionally being drawn back to that present moment because your mind is
Yeah.
going to wander, it's going to drift. And I think that's normal. It's not about shaming yourself or beating yourself up for, oh,
Right.
I forgot to be present again. It's like, no, there's no shame, there's no condemnation, but it's just saying, God, would you show me where are you moving and working in my life today? What are you doing in this season? And not looking backwards, not looking forwards, but seeing what God is doing today in the here and now and partnering with him in it.
Yeah. I truly love that because, I think the message literally on my heart right now is being wildly hopeful in the middle of
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah.
We spend so much of our time of in our lives looking ahead to what's next and to things that are unfinished and what we're working toward. And like you said, looking back to, man, why did I do that? Or why didn't that go different? And it's the simple act of being present. If we could only spend more time right here, right now, and seeing the goodness of God in the land of the living, like where our feet are planted right now, I just think that we would truly see the abundant joy that is
Mhm.
ours. We would see the freedom, that we have. And there is a line in the heart of your book that I want to um, talk about for just a moment before I kind of get closer to me letting you go and stewarding your time well. But it wasn't about doing more, and that has kind of struck me because it was about encountering the God who was already near. And
Mhm.
but here's the tension: even a book about rest can become another checklist, like you said. Like
Right.
there's no condemnation, there's no shame in intentionality. And when you're trying to be present, if your mind does wander and if it does drift, or if you have to write down your grocery list or the thoughts that come to your mind right now, like distractions are going to come. We
Mhm.
are human. We live in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
We're women and we're talented like that, and we can do
Mhm.
multiple things at one time. Um, but the steps and step one become excellent and not striving. As far as like, how do we keep spiritual practices from becoming just another performance metric, like another box that we check off, like, okay, did I rest? Like, am I getting rest? How do we do that and practice that without performing?
Mhm. Yeah. I think it comes back to like a posture of surrender and the posture of your heart. Like, you're not doing this to earn favor from God. Like, you already have his acceptance, his favor because of what Jesus did on the cross, right? And so you're not trying to earn his favor or his love. Like, you're already secure in his love for you. And there's nothing more you could do or not do that's going to change his love for you. Like, you are secure in his love. And so the posture of your heart shifts from just trying to earn that favor and love to, really just more enjoying intimacy with him, like, even, with my husband, like, I don't go on a date with him so I could, like, "Oh, great, I did a date, and let me check that off my list." I go on a date 'cause I enjoy that, it's life-giving
Yeah,
for me, and so
yeah,
my hope for people is to equip them with tools so that they can enjoy that time, so that it's actually something that is a source of rest and peace and enjoyment in their life that's life-giving and not something that is like, "Oh, I've missed my Bible study again, I feel the sense of
yeah,
shame," or, it's not about that, and so the simple posture of surrender, I'm like, just imagine like if your palms are held out and you're gripping your knuckles tight and it's like releasing it. And that's how you can receive from God. Like you open your hands, open your heart, and it's really about receiving instead of like white knuckling your way through it all.
Yeah. And as far as opening your hands and receiving, I love that because once our hands are open to receive in our hearts, then we can hear from God.
Mhm.
Right. And I don't know I don't know how much of anything that we can do with him if we don't open our ears and our hearts to hear him and to
Yeah.
know that he is near. Um, Another thing that may be a reason as to why your message and forever with you has grabbed me by my heart, I think, is because neither one of us seem like interested in a faith that only works for like designated spiritual spaces. I love that. Like the ordinary life theology
Mhm.
is my jam.
Yeah.
The miraculous, the mundane, and every moment in between, and that is truly my love language. I will romanticize washing dishes and not for
Yes.
anything other than the act of me just thanking God. Like when I have a
Mhm.
sink full of dishes, I have a dishwasher, but I'll stand there and wash them with him just so that I can just take that time and thank him. I
Mhm.
really use that as a moment to practice gratitude. And so I love that and the ordinary moments of the mundane. And I pray that when the women that are able to get this book in their hands and get to um, start reading about noticing and being present and being near to God and resting, I just pray that that is one of the things is that they can just truly open their mind, their eyes, their hearts, and receive with open
Mhm.
hands when
Yes.
they do get their hands on this book. Um,
Absolutely.
because God's not waiting somewhere else, right? Like He's
Mhm.
here. He is
That's
here
right.
with us. He has never left us. And I wanted to ask you, Monica, before we end our chat, we always end with a final five. It's just a fun final questions, five questions that we always ask that are just like a no thought process. But before we get to that, I just wanted to ask you for a woman who may feel far from God right now, or the one that may feel like she needs to sit in his presence, is there something that you can share with her that you think that she may find in Ever With You, a message that she could
Mhm.
immediately, that you're thinking about her right now, and she could go to that, and that may just give her a little wild hope today?
Oh. I'd love to close with this story because I found myself in a season, when my husband and our family, we were really following the call of God to leave Southern California, to sell our home, leave our jobs, and follow his calling to move to just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And when we got here, we thought we were going to our promised land, but we ended up like smack dab in the middle of a really long, really lonely, isolating wilderness season. And I remember in that season feeling like, "God, you called me to do this, and then I feel like you abandoned me." Like, I felt just abandoned and forgotten by God. Like, we had done the thing, but now he forgot about us, and he forgot to include us into why he brought us here, and so it was a
Yeah.
really hard season, and I remember one day we had taken the kids down to Chattanooga to go to the aquarium, and my youngest daughter, who's like my stage 5 clinger, my mommy's girl, always right by my side, we were walking hand in hand in the aquarium, and then she walked up to the glass to get a good look at the fish, and the aquarium was pretty crowded that day, so I took a few steps back to just create space for some of the other kids to get a good look at the fish. And I'd never taken my eyes off of her, but I did take a few steps back. And she, after a few minutes, she looked back and she couldn't see where I was through the crowds. And she said, "Mommy, Mommy." And I called over to her, "I'm right here, I'm right here." But she couldn't hear me over the noise. And then she starts to kind of panic and she starts, leaving us, "Mommy, Mommy, where are you?" And then finally, I walk over, I scoop her up in my arms, and I hold her close, and I'm like, "I'm right here." She's like, "Mommy, I thought you left me." And I said, "Sweetie, I would never leave you. I was right here the whole time." And in that moment, I just began to, like, start tearing up because I felt like the Lord ministered to me that day that, "Yeah, just
Yeah.
Monica, you thought, 'Where are you, God? Did you leave me? You forgot about me.'" And he's like, "I was right here. I never left you. I was with you all along." And so I love that to just illustrate like the God's nearness that even when you feel forgotten or you feel that he's far away, he's actually never left you. He never took his eyes off you and he is with you in and through it all.
I needed that today too. So I love that. I love that that's the story that you shared with. And I can't believe that we've already been chatting for an hour. Like I feel like we just sat down and started talking. I only had about 1562 more questions to even ask. And so I just like had to start looking down through my notes. I was like, I didn't even get to half of this. So we will have to have another chat. Either I'll have to
Yes.
come to Tennessee or I'll have to bring you here to Charleston and we'll have to chat again
Absolutely.
because there was just so much more that I wanted to um, discuss with you and let our friends kind of just like pick your brain and hear from your
Mhm.
heart. But now we are going into the fun final five. And like I said, these are just little, normally we get kind of deep on this podcast. I always say near the end of an episode that I always want to be the fun friend. And I always thought God was going to let me be the funny one, like always fun and always lighthearted. And I can be that, but I never stay that way. And I'm just, everything always gets so deep. So I like to end fun.
Oh,
Um,
fun.
Okay, so question number one. So you're suddenly given an entire free day on a Saturday. And so, as a busy wife and mom that you are, like, you're probably in your mind laughing, like, really? Like, just no obligations, nothing. Obligation free Saturday. Nobody needs you, nothing's due. Where are we finding Monica sitting?
Okay, so you know I'm a drinker of all the coffee, right? So of course I'm going to my favorite coffee shop. I'm probably
Yeah.
going to downtown Columbia, 15 minutes from where I live, and I'm going to get myself a good cappuccino. Probably
Yes.
going to sit with a book, and then I'm going to go over to Duck River Books in downtown Columbia, my favorite little bookstore, and I'm going to peruse the aisles and just take my sweet old time reading the back covers, looking through the pages of the books, and picking out a few to buy and take home. So definitely bookstore, coffee, maybe just an I love to just frolic about, so I'm probably just gonna just make my way through the downtown, visiting some of the
Yeah.
antique stores and just kind of maybe grabbing some lunch. Like, these are the things my dreams are made of, so
Right? That's what I was gonna say. This is what dreams are made of, and
yes.
I love downtown Columbia. Anyway, I love Mule Day. Columbia, their little downtown
Yes!
area is one of my favorites. My 40th birthday, we went to Tennessee, and I spent that in downtown Columbia. I loved it. So, we've went to the coffee shop, we've went to a bookstore, we've went to a thrift store, we've had lunch. What are we finding in Monica's bag when she gets back in her car?
Well, definitely some books. I have this really like my TBR pile is like a mile long. Like it's a problem. I have so many books. I've told myself recently, I was like, okay, you're not allowed to buy any more books until you read this stack that is on your side table. So definitely
Yes.
books. Maybe something from one of the cute boutiques or something like I love buying little necklaces or earrings or like little clothes, fun things like that.
Little
So
fun things. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So your favorite comfort rom-com, is it a book or is it a movie?
Well, You've Got Mail is, like, the best, right, movie, like, it's my favorite rom-com, so I always say my rom-com that I wrote is, like, You've Got Mail meets The Office,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it's a workplace romance, and so it's, like, You've Got Mail meets The Office, so I would say You've Got Mail is just one of my and it's Nora Roberts, and it's so great.
See, now, I literally, when you said you have to read the stack of books on your side table before you get any more, I literally looked over at my side table and I was like, "That's me too." Like, I have got to start reading some of these before I do anything else. Um, but I love that. Okay, what is something ordinary that is bringing you joy right now that nobody would expect? Just a normal, routine, ordinary, simple joy in life.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, this is gonna sound weird, but decluttering brings me joy. Like, I love to, there's no better feeling than, like, going through and, like, purging old things out of, like, my junk drawer or my closet, and so I feel that they say if you work with your mind to, like, rest with your hands, and
Rest
if
your
you work
hands.
with your hands or, rest with your mind, and so since I work with my mind, there's something to me about, like, doing things with my body, like exercise or walking or cleaning out my closet, so those are the brings me joy. Just
I literally just had that same conversation this past week about resting my mind and doing something with my hands. And it's so funny that you said decluttering. I am the queen of declutter. Okay. I love a declutter sesh, like a good declutter. My problem is I'm a hoarder. So I love to declutter. but then I don't want to get rid of anything. So then I have
Oh,
to
yeah.
find somewhere else to stuff the stuff that I don't want to get rid of. But then that one area is like so clean and like looks good and I can show it to everybody. And I'm liable to make a story about it. I'm going to take pictures of it. I'm showing,
Oh,
I'm
it's so
fixing to like
great.
FaceTime my daughter about it. So I love it. Okay. Last question we ask everybody that's sitting around this table. What is something that is just making you wildly hopeful right now?
Oh, that's a good one. I think right now in this season, I just feel really hopeful. Like I love podcasts, I love writing books and all that, but in-person ministry is kind of where my heart is local church, local the church ministry. And so I am just always really hopeful and encouraged. And I gather with other women and I hear what God's doing in their life and in their hearts and what they're praying for and contending for. And so I would say like local church ministry, women's ministry. I'm so excited. Our church is, gathering in groups again starting this fall. And so I'm just so hopeful and expecting for what God's going to do when we come to like there's just no greater joy than getting to gather with your fellow sisters in Christ and see what God
Yeah.
does. So that brings me so much joy and hope and I'm
Yes.
so excited.
I love that, and I agree. Okay, so the biggest question burning in my mind right now, how is the best way to stay connected, all things Monica, and your book, Ever With You, is out. This you girls, you gals will be hearing us on Wednesday, August 19th. And this will be one day. Monica's book will be one day out in the wild. And where can they find it, Monica?
Yeah, so you can check it out on Amazon. You just search Ever With You by Monika Kirkland. You can also go to my website, Monica, that's Monica with a K, last name Kirkland, like the Costco brand. So monikakirkland.com. I have a page for the book on there. You could check out my podcast, Inner Revival. You could find me on Instagram at Monika Kirkland, where I hang out quite a bit. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I have to say that I 100% agree with Mary. I just went back to that in my mind and just thinking about her describing you as beautiful and in just so much depth and funny and a sui generous. I agree. So I'll have to tell her that she definitely did amazing on the Friendship 101 matchmaking. And thank you. And for all of our friends listening, thank you so much. And until we meet again, bye.
Okay, friends, I have to come back to where we started. I was thinking about Mary introducing Monica to me as a sui generis, a one of one. And somewhere between the Cora with a C and Cora with a K, coffee and rom-coms, Tennessee and theology, I started understanding why she wanted us to know each other. But then after this conversation, I keep thinking how beautifully one of one actually fits the message we've been talking about. Because so many women are exhausted trying to become some imaginary version of the woman they think God would prefer. More disciplined, more productive, more spiritual, more put together. And maybe part of becoming fully awake to God is also becoming present to the actual life He's given us, not somebody else's life, not the life we'll have once everything settles down, but this one, right here, right now, with Him. And I think that's such a beautiful invitation. And Monica's book, Ever With You, Becoming Fully Awake, is now out in the wild. It has been out for one day. If you've been feeling spiritually tired, distracted, or somehow maybe feel like you've wandered farther from God than you meant to, this isn't an invitation to add another item to your spiritual checklist. It's an invitation to notice the one who has never left. Grab her book wherever you buy your books, and we'll have everything linked for you in the show notes. You can also find Monica, like she said, on her website, on Instagram, and on her podcast at Inner Revival. I'm so thankful that Monica sat at the table with us today, and I'm really grateful to Mary for this introduction. And if something in this conversation made you think of another woman, the friend who's tired, the friend who's been telling you God feels far away, or maybe the one who's doing all the things and quietly running on empty, would you please send this episode to her? Not because she needs one more thing to fix, but maybe because she simply just needs someone to remind her God has not left her. He is not far away. And perhaps today she can become a little more awake to the God who is already near. Maybe being fully awake to Him doesn't begin with becoming more impressive. Maybe it begins with becoming more present, present to this breath, to this ordinary day, to our messy kitchens, to our unanswered prayers, in this body and this moment because He is standing next to us and he's been whispering all along, I'm here. And that's the invitation for us to be here too. And if you want to show us some love, leave us a review. Those 5 stars mean more than you will ever know. It helps push this wildly hopeful message to others who need to be sitting with us right here in the middle. And until next time, may we become women who don't rush past the life we're actually living. May we have eyes awake enough to recognize God in the sacred and in the seemingly ordinary, in the miraculous and in the mundane. And may we release the gold stars we were never asked to earn. May we stop confusing exhaustion with faithfulness. And may we remember, whether we feel Him or not, whether today feels miraculous or painfully mundane, we are living our ordinary lives in the presence of an extraordinary God. He is near, He has always been near, and He will be ever with you.